of the show, Camille and David. Thank you, everybody, for watching the movie. Laughing? Yeah, for laughing and...
Good is this guy?
How good are you? Oh my God. That scene at the end when he hugs me and cries, I'm like, verklempt. Oh. Dave hadn't seen the movie. It's his first time.
It's funny, we'll be able to take some audience questions after this first one, but so, did you start thinking about them, or you had,
what?
did you start the film by kind of having them in mind to do it, or did you write it first and did it?
I didn't write it. A
Somebody else
lovely
wrote it first,
man named
I guess.
Chipper Clancy, you should stand up. He's a Texan. Where are you, dude? Stand up. There he is. That man wrote the movie. It's all his fault. No, I mean, casting process, I got hired, and then I met Dave first, and then I saw The Big Stick, and I knew about Camille, and I was like, those guys would be great together, and then we were lucky enough to get them in the room for a chem read, and it was like, they sat down in front of the camera, and I'm like, that's the movie. That's the movie, those two guys.
I was gonna say that if you said that we were your first choice, I know that's a lie because I know who your first choices were.
Yo.
No, it's not bad. They weren't yours. They were 20th Century Fox's first choice. They're getting absorbed by Disney. No. They were great. What am I doing?
I don't know what you're doing.
I'm all like, they're wonderful. Everybody's great. I'm like, a little emotional from the
very
movie.
clear, obviously, as you can all tell, that they are made for each other. So it was a very easy choice in that sense.
Yeah.
And was anything surprising in terms of pretty different film for you, I would guess, but...
Is that a different type of film for me? Yeah, I mean, I'd never done any action. I'd never held a real gun in my life until this movie. And I sort of said when I was like, I don't want my character to ever shoot anyone in the movie unless it's by mistake and in the air as a warning shot. So at the end, when I have the gun to shoot Tasia, I was like, I don't want him to shoot Tasia because he's like, I feel like in a movie that has so many guns, we have to sort of have all character being like, hey, guns are kind of scary, and they're not just, toys or whatever. So that's why, but that was the first time I held a gun, and I really, doing the action with someone like Mike, who knows action so well, and acting with Batista, with Dave, who's so good at physical acting and action. Watching him and Iko do it, I learned so much from them. They're like so amazing at it.
Iko's actually different level acting guy. He's totally, he's amazing. He deserves an applause.
Yeah, you do it and you'd be like, you do something and you'd be like, are you okay? You're like, yeah.
We never think he's like really prepared. We're like, are you sure? Because his English is not great. We're like, you ready? Because he doesn't really rehearse
Let's
a
go.
lot.
Remember his noise? He makes a noise when he works. like roll camera, and then he goes, shook, and everybody goes, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot in my life now. Like whenever I'm getting ready for anything for stand-up, I go, shook!
Do it.
Everyone's like, what is wrong with this man? Iko was really good. I remember when you guys first shot with him, you were like, he kicked, and then you guys were like, okay, now kick. He's like, I already kicked. You're like, it's too fast for the cameras. You guys had to get him to slow down his movement so the camera could catch him.
Yeah, and he also knows about shooting it, and like, it was great. I mean, he sort of was one of the fight designers, along with Steve Ritzy, who's a great stunt coordinator, and I wanted this film to feel impactful and the action to be fucking awesome, and I didn't want to pull any punches. I'm sick of movies, action comedies where the action sucks, and I wanted it to be great and just really have impact. So that was like, I love movies like that, and that was sort of, I'm pretty passionate about it, so yeah.
It's great. The action's great. The comedy is great. But what I love about this film, this is my first time seeing it. What I really love and what I really was hoping, and I think what's going to set us apart, is that there's so much heart in this film. Like action comedies, you don't get choked up. Like, I got choked up a few times. Like, you're just great, dude. You're amazing. Like, we all know he's not good at comedy, but your range is crazy.
Literally the sweetest man in the world.
So man crushing on you right now, dude. Sexy with that beard.
I learned it from you, Dad. Oh, if people have questions, you can come to these microphones. Yes.
Go ahead.
Good job on the movie, y'all. It was a pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the themes of courage and development. For you, sir, could you talk about what happened with the female cop, the mole? Like, what was her ending? I
Her ending?
appreciated the daughter's intuition that something was wrong and that she sort of let her father know about that, but I don't know if she got justice or was killed.
She got justice. She's in jail. She did not die, and we're going to do a whole sequel that, no, I don't know.
Kill America for
Yeah, she's amazing.
It was absolutely amazing, by the
Yeah,
way. I wish
she was.
She's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi. So this being a work in progress film, what are some of the ways that you are going to go about breaking this down and molding it into what we'll see in theaters when it comes out?
Well, if everybody, everybody would definitely recommend, could they raise their hand? No, I'm just kidding. How are we going to go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty close. I'm going to spend probably another 10 days in the edit suite and keep fine-tuning it a little bit. But we're really close, so we're almost there. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I don't know if you can answer, were there surprises as you were sitting in the audience watching, or was it as you expected?
Yeah, there were some surprises for sure. I think, yeah, I learned a lot on this screening for sure. I'm not going to share what those surprises were, but yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, just real quick before I ask my question, I just wanted to say, Mr. Batista, Mr. Nanjiani, I'm a huge fan of both of y'all, and I was so happy watching this movie because you both delivered performances that were surprisingly honest and just pitch perfect for this movie.
Oh, thank you. It's been great working with Dave because usually we are competing for the same parts a lot. It was good to not have to compete and finally be on screen together, you know? They're always like, Kumail Nanjiani / Dave Batista type, and I'm like, I got it. So it's good to finally work with them.
And I learned a lot on this film. I second guess myself when it comes to comedic acting. It may sound odd because I'm a big meathead, but I think my strength is in dramatic acting. So I still struggle with comedy, and I learned a lot on this film from Michael and from Kumail. So it really, I mean.
Don't lean on the screen with that. What's your question, sir?
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm sorry. So what I was going to say is that it's hard for me to take credit for my performance. I was there. I was learning. I learned a lot on this film. Thank you.
Wow, awesome. My question was for Kumail. I know in a lot of previous stuff you've done, like Silicon Valley, and especially in The Big Sick, there's references to how you're such a fan of 90s action films, like the Terminator and buddy cop films, like Lethal Weapon and stuff. So I just wanted to know how many kind of slip-ins did you do to references to that? Because I know you're kind of a big fan of that stuff.
Well, I am, but honestly, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of those films. Like, I never worked in a film like this, and Mike was so prepared. You know these films really. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, the genre that he knows as much about action movies as I know about romantic comedies, and that's completely the truth. Like, romantic comedies, I know all of them. But with action, Mike really had an understanding of these types of films, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love those films. In terms of direct references, we actually many times we kind of, in certain drafts, we copy things, or we had a scene, like we had one scene that we cut where or another version of the ending that we obviously didn't use for good reason, where he gave him a penknife, and we're like, oh, you mentioned it, you're like, that's like Lethal Weapon. I'm like, that's fuck right.
Right.
Where he gives him the bullet. But what I like about those movies is that they're cinematic. They're really grounded and like realistic, but they're also beautiful, and there's a ton of color in the frame, and they kind of fire on all cylinders. And I just wanted to make a film that could do that, because I think a lot of films lose sight of that. They feel like they have to be one thing and they can't be the other, and I think you can do all of it at once.
I know I'm just a fan, but I think you really did accomplish that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, what was interesting to me about this when I read the script was the idea that, we're sort of in an age where we're really talking about what being a guy means, and I feel like traditionally the only emotion that that it's okay for men to express has been anger. And so that's sort of the character that Dave is in the beginning, and then I'm the opposite, where we always felt like this movie was one guy needs to cry and one guy needs to get angry.
Yeah.
And you could really have that conversation through this movie, because we've learned obviously that, traditional masculinity is very limited and has caused a lot of problems. So it's great to take a genre that is as male as a buddy cop action comedy and talk about that stuff. That was really, really exciting.
Yeah, you, go ahead.
Yes, sir. You're at the front of the line.
Yeah. I'm terrified standing up here. Dave's gonna pull a chair out of his ass in a second. So.
He doesn't need a chair to beat anyone up.
Where else do you pull a chair out of?
Sorry, go ahead.
So, this is a great film. You guys don't really have to worry about this at all. But in general, how do you guys deal with worrying about a film not having a good turnout and possibly being a flop? I'm like, no, you guys are great.
I mean, how do you worry about asking the question, When you stand up at a line, when I stand up at a line, I'm like, what kind of question am I gonna ask? Is it gonna be? I don't worry about it. I try to make the best film. I try to make films that I love, and I like comedies because there's an immediate reaction to it. So I think you guys liked it, so I don't think it's gonna be a flop.
I worry about it. I worry about it, and I've been in this spot before. We were actually in this spot with Guardians, because a lot of people were predicting that it would be the first Marvel film that would flop. Just a lot of people weren't familiar with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So Marvel took a lot of precautions. They really marketed it before it came out. But there are some things that are they're out of our hands, and you never really know until that opening weekend. You're just kind of hoping and praying. But I mean, all kinds of things can happen. It's a fair question. But I do worry about it, because I want people to show up, especially when I'm proud of something like this. I want people to show up, because a lot of people, they look at Rotten Tomatoes. They look at the box office draw. If it's not, if people aren't out giving it ratings, if they're not spending money to go see it, people automatically assume that it's not good. This is great. This is great. I want people to see it.
I worry about it too, but I'd be fine if it made half the money that the Guardians movies made. I'd be happy with that.
Now, I don't know if a lot of people recognized Karen, my partner in the beginning. Karen did it. It was also Nebula. So this was really special for us to work together outside of Marvel.
He's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So speaking of anger and chairs, what went into the scene when you guys were fighting each other in the sporting goods store, and did you ever hurt each other on set?
Did I what?
Did you ever hurt each other on set, physically?
Oh, I mean, it was hard to hold back my strength when I'm fighting. I don't know my own strength sometimes. They'll be like, hey, go easy, we're doing a movie. Dude, man up. We really choreographed a lot. That took, how many days of shooting was that?
I think it was 4. The fight was probably
2 days?
Yeah, 2.5 days of fighting.
Nice.
And just, how we do the fighting is I don't try to overcover it. I just try to do it once and do it great and then piece it all together and just think it through a little bit, and so that we can do something of that scale and not get bogged down in overcoverage, and just make it really visceral and fun and pre-plan it out, and sort of what would you, I've had that fantasy of in a store just wanting to beat the shit out of it, using the equipment, let's figure that out. What would that be?
I love that scene because it's sort of the way that his character solves problems is through violence, and the way my character solves it is through talking. So in that scene, we're kind of doing both. We're taking each other's approaches. So we're having this really knockdown, drag-out fight, but then when he calls me a little girl, I'm like, you should be proud to be a woman. They're very strong. The future is female, So we're having that a verbal argument as we're also having the physical fight. So that's what I really was excited about that scene, because it's, You don't see scenes like that where like people are arguing and really beating each other up.
That was also one of the scenes I was asked what I was drawn to about the script, what I was attracted to, and that was one of those scenes I was reading and I was laughing out loud. It's just so funny.
Yeah, that was a tough scene, but it was really fun to do. I had a great time doing it. My favorite part was when I get the tricycle and I hit him over the head with it. We used a mannequin, and I don't know why, but it felt really good to just like hit a mannequin with a tricycle.
My favorite part is by far the never-ending story.
But what we love about that is that I say this long, very specific, nerdy thing, and it was like, do you remember? And he's like, yeah. That's what I love. He remembers it. He's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The gates, yeah. Oracle gates. Yeah.
Hi. So what's the relationship with Uber? Are they sponsoring content? I mean, it looks like product placement. Are they giving you marketing budget?
Not really. We had to get permission to do it, right?
There's no mention of Lyft. I mean,
Well, Lyft is not a great title for a movie.
Lyft, Taxi.
Staxi, yeah. We called it Staxi for a little while.
Ride share, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you know, where we're not like promoting it, but it's like such a part of the world. And if you're making, I hate in movies when they're like, let's go to fast food restaurant. Like, you could say McDonald's, they're everywhere. That doesn't mean you're promoting it or anything. That's just part of the world, you know? Like, these are references.
They're not sponsoring it.
There's no product placements yet.
No, not at all. Zero.
All right.
No.
I get the sense she works at Lyft.
Go ahead.
Hi, so I really enjoyed the movie. I think this movie had a lot of heart to it. I think that's a testament to your guys' work and everyone involved in it. I'm kind of curious, what was y'all's favorite moment while shooting this film? Like any...
I'll say for me doing that, can I, oh, I'm not gonna tell this story, the story's for me. But that scene in the hospital when Dave like hugs me and,
I was gonna say the same thing, yeah.
I remember, so we did the first take, and then I saw Mike come up to Dave and was like, hey, you know, if you need tears or anything, we can do it. And Dave was like, I'm fine. And so I hug him, and he's a big guy, mountain, and as I'm hugging him, I could feel him shaking. And I'm like, what is that? Wow. The yell cut, pulls back, tears in his eyes. We do it one more time, he hugs me, he's shaking, pulls back, tears in his eyes, and you were like, move on. And that was so great. And then I asked you later, a couple of days later, I was like, what did you think about it? Did you think about your kids? And what you told me is not something I'm going to tell anybody.
Yeah, it was beautiful for me.
It was very sweet.
Yeah, I love that. I love that moment. I was by the monitor, and when I'm very enthusiastic at the monitor, and when it happened, I just was so happy.
Yeah.
And it was great to see. And there was so many fun moments, but that one's really special just because it's you and it's the end of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was weird too. I draw from a lot. I draw from my life experience and my acting. I draw from people I love, from animals I love. But
Dave loves animals.
I love it. But I was in a really good mood that day. I was in a great mood. We were having fun. We were having so much fun. And I wasn't sure, you know, if I was going to be able to pull that off, like an emotional scene. It's very draining. It takes a lot. But I'm not the fake tear guy. I don't want to ever be that guy. Because acting is pure to me.
Yeah, I use tears.
He doesn't need to. He's brilliant, man.
Come on.
He's brilliant. I've worked with a lot of great actors.
Oh my God.
Some guys are just really great at
You don't have to tell everyone I'm funnier than Chris Pratt. You don't have to.
And Pratt is the same way. Pratt is the same way. And these people like this are very few and far between. There's great actors who are great at certain things. There's not a lot of great actors, believe me, who are across the board, just have a range from slapstick comedy to making you just cry your butt off. I mean, that's rare. That's a rare thing. And he's got it.
Hell yeah.
Oh, wow, thank you. That's so kind.
How much of the driving in the movie was with stunt drivers?
I mean, all of it. I mean, it's just stunt drivers. You know.
Can we take that again? It was me. You're not allowed. I mean, there were some parts where we're driving against traffic, and Dave and I are in the car, but there's like a guy on top who's got the real steering wheel.
Yeah.
Ritzy's.
I mean, you drove a little bit, but yeah, we have a pod car, and it's
Very dismissive. You drove a little bit.
But I didn't use a lot of green screen. There's one scene where I used LED panels. It was really important to me that we shot as practically as possible, because I think you feel that in a car movie, unless it's really good, and you just got to try to put them in there. And
That was the thing. You said, you were like, I don't want to use LED panels. I want to actually shoot on the road. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And then we're on the road shooting in super hot weather. And I was like, this sucks. Let's go to the LED panels. I know why people do it.
The crash was really interesting. They put us on this big rotisserie, and just literally the car was on a rotisserie, and they just spun us around.
Yeah, I remember they had it's like you were in the car and it's spinning around, and they gave the scariest safety speech I've ever. They're like, this thing, if you go near it, it'll rip your arm off, and then and then
Your arm comes out of the car.
Yeah, it'll rip your arm off and murder your whole family. And I was like, is this really an important shot? And you were like, it's so important. It's 1 second in the movie.
An important second.
U-turns will come out? I'm guessing the U-turns weren't stunt driving?
Oh, the 8-point turns?
There was some driving.
Those I got, dude.
Thank you for being here today, and I really appreciate the movie and your great work you put out on screen. What was the inspiration in the animal shelter scene where you are interrogating one of the suspects?
Right.
And the use of Twitter and how you were inspired to use it?
Well, I think it was, the way his character deals with stuff is through violence, and my character sort of thinks things through. So we wanted to show that his approach was not right. And so when you see him sort of beating people up through the course of the movie, and then when he starts torturing the guy, my character's like, no, you could do it a different way. And so that's what was really important to us for that scene, was showing that his way is not the way. and with Twitter, there were references earlier in the movie to Twitter, because we were like, we gotta set it up. But then we were like, everyone knows Twitter.
This is the last question. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right, no pressure. I wanted to say thank you for the bagels Saint-Viateur Montréal.
Merci beaucoup. Bienvenue.
Thank you for that. Also, I was wondering, that's a very kick-ass action movie, and do you think that we're ever going to get one with female leads? And do you see yourself directing that?
I would love to. You had a kick-ass, not an action comedy, but I would say Atomic Blonde is pretty kick-ass. And I would say Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman is pretty good. So I think
actual comedy.
Yeah, but if an action, yes, I would give my right not to do that for sure.
All right, so we've got you
yes, proof of it, 100%. Yeah.
Right, and I'll do anything I can help to have that happen. I'll do craft services. Here, so we're gonna do this thing. We're all gonna take a selfie with all of you, and then if you open your AirDrop, we're gonna AirDrop it to all of you guys. So get in here, guys.
Get in this.
Ready?
He's in, everybody.
And then we'll do one like that. Here, come back, guys.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you, everybody.